What's up, guys, and welcome to Making Houston Home. I appreciate y'all for joining today. Before we get started, go ahead and like, subscribe, hit that little bell at the bottom. That's going to make sure you're up to date, up to speed on everything that's going on here in Houston. If you're thinking about moving to Houston, or if you already live in the Houston area, maybe you're thinking about moving to a different spot within Houston, go ahead and reach out. We got people calling, texting, emailing, setting up Zoom calls on a weekly basis. I'm doing everything I can to help y'all out, providing y'all with as much information as I can, answering all the questions I can. So go ahead and reach out. I'm available 24/7. And today we are going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in Kingwood, Texas. So if you've heard about Kingwood, maybe you haven't, check out some of my other videos on Kingwood. Great suburb, about northeast of downtown Houston, about 20-30 minutes from there. Really great location, close to the airport. Again, if you've heard about it, maybe you haven't, today I'm going to be telling you great things about it and some of the not so great things about it. So stay tuned. We're going to get to it right now. All right, guys, so here we go. This is about Kingwood, Texas, the livable forest. The first thing I always want to note about Kingwood, it is beautiful. It really is. As soon as you get off the freeway on Kingwood Drive to drive into the city, you got two big ponds on each side with fountains, huge sign, Kingwood, the livable forest, Texas flag, American flag, the whole deal. Just a gorgeous place. You got all the trees as you drive down Kingwood Drive. It's just filled with trees. It's called the livable forest for a reason. And you're driving, it's literally a tunnel of trees. It is just the prettiest thing. Something I had never really seen before, being growing up in the city in LA. So coming here, that was something that I just love. And to this day, I've been here since 2018. To this day, every time I drive down there, I'm just in awe of how beautiful it is. Great place. There's the lake, obviously, which basically runs along Kingwood. You have Lake Houston. There's ponds, golf courses. Just overall, aesthetically saying, it is one of the prettiest places I've ever been. And that is one of the main reasons that I love Kingwood. My wife loves Kingwood. All of our friends who live here absolutely love it. The next thing that we love most about Kingwood is that everything really is within driving distance. So if you live, we talk about the back of Kingwood, which means, Kingwood, like I said, is backed up to the lake, to Lake Houston. That part of the city is called the back of Kingwood. The front of Kingwood is on the east side, closer to the freeway. So as I talk about that, just to kind of give you a visual, if I say the front of Kingwood, I'm talking about closer to 59 Highway. The back of Kingwood, closer to the lake. We live in the back of Kingwood. There's a ton of stuff, a big hub of grocery stores, restaurants, all kinds of things. Everything you need is pretty much within this little spot here. So there's tons of schools. Every little subdivision in Kingwood, for the most part, has its own school. So like us, for example, our kids' school, they're in kindergarten and first, so they're both in elementary now. It's literally a 30-second drive. We could probably walk there, but it's hot right now. It's summertime, so we're not walking too many places right now. Literally right down the street. And everyone in this subdivision, all of our kids go to the same schools. All of our kids play at the park. We all have a park and a pool. So summer times are really fun. Everybody goes down to the pool. If you don't have a pool at your house, you'll see a lot of people there. One of the coolest things, and we didn't even know about this until just this past year, every spring into the first part of summer, there's swim teams. So every little subdivision here in Kingwood has their own swim team. So it starts, I believe, at 4 years old and goes all the way up through high school age. And we do tournaments. So every weekend there's a swim team tournament. So like my son did it last year. He was 5 at the time. His first year doing it, he absolutely loved it. There's practice, every day in the afternoons. They teach them all the swimming strokes. Really cool way to bring the whole community together, kind of derived around something that the kids want to do. Just really great. Every Saturday there's swim meets and you compete against a different subdivision. I say compete because, there's no like hating on anybody. Everybody's just there having a good time, rooting for the kids. It is so much fun. Talking about the kids, one of the other great things about Kingwood is the schools. And for my wife and I, we moved from Southern California. We lived in Orange County. We grew up in LA. We lived in Orange County for a while, then came here to Kingwood. Leaving Orange County to come to Texas, to come to Houston, we wanted to make sure that we were in a place that had good schools. When we were in that mindset, we were still in Orange County. I used to be in the oil industry before I started full-time real estate. So as I was making that transition, I would talk to people who lived here already, who were in the oil industry from all around Houston. And everyone, when I would tell them, hey, I want good schools and I need a safe neighborhood because we don't have family or friends here. We didn't at the time. We've since made a bunch of friends, but we didn't have anyone. And I worked nights in the oil industry. I was gone a lot. So I need to make sure that my wife and my kids were safe, first and foremost. Secondly, we wanted good schools for our kids. So all that to say, every single person that I would ask about, hey, these are my top 2 things I need, everyone said Kingwood. You need to be in Kingwood. That's the spot you want to be in. And man, I couldn't say more about it. Those people were absolutely right. We love it here. My wife loves it. Just a great place for our kids. Back to the schools. I kind of got off on a little tangent there, but back to the schools. Some of the top rated schools in Houston. There's a lot of great schools in Houston in general. So even if you're coming here, if you don't move to Kingwood, there's still tons of great highly rated schools all around the city. Some of the best suburbs here are in Houston. Talking about Kingwood specifically, you can go on like niche.com, on HAR. If you're looking at houses, you scroll through HAR, it shows the school ratings for any house that you're looking at. So that's always a good place to start too. But you'll see Kingwood has A's and B's across. So really, really great schools here in Kingwood. Just overall beautiful place. Everything's close. Even if you need to get to downtown, we're about 20-30 minutes to downtown. If you want to go up to the Woodlands is about 20-25 minutes, not a bad drive. The airport though is really close, about a 15-minute drive depending on how far you are into Kingwood. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're in the front of Kingwood by the freeway, airport's like 10 minutes from there. Not a bad drive at all. If you're in the back of Kingwood, it might take you 10 minutes to get to the freeway. So 15-20 minute drive to the airport, which was huge for us because again, like I said, we don't have family here, so our family comes to visit a lot. So being that close to the airport is super, super convenient and very important for us. So with that said, that was just a few of the things that we enjoy about Kingwood. And I'll jump into some of the things that, might not be so great about living in Kingwood. The first thing, so I started the video, I was talking about the drive down Kingwood. Super pretty, gorgeous road, kind of sets the vibe for coming in. Once you live here, Kingwood Drive, so if you look at a map, we can pull up a map for you here. If you're coming down Kingwood Drive, you look at that coming east, Kingwood Drive is 2 lanes going each way. So 2 lanes going west, 2 lanes going east. And that's really the only way to the freeway if you live close to Kingwood Drive. So a lot of times it can get backed up. If they're doing construction, if a car's, shut down and broken on one of the lanes, then it goes down to 1 lane. So there are times when you get to the freeway, you need to get out of Kingwood, and it might take you 20-30 minutes just to get out of Kingwood to get to the airport. There are other routes, like for example, on the just north of Kingwood Drive, there's another main street called North Park. North Park is kind of the same way, but there is a project in to widen North Park. So right now, they're supposed to break ground on that pretty soon. So again, if you look at the map, it's the next main street north of Kingwood Drive. You'll see North Park. They're going to widen that, and that'll help alleviate a lot of that traffic that's coming in and out of Kingwood. There's also railroad tracks that run north-south right by the freeway. So sometimes that train comes by and you might get caught behind that train. That same North Park project that's going to be widening it, they're also going to be putting in an overpass there so traffic can go over those railroad tracks. So once that's done, that's going to alleviate all of that pain and, I'm not going to say suffering because it's not terrible, especially being from LA. The traffic here is nothing near LA traffic. So can't really compare it to that. But if I were going to say something negative about it, that would be it, as getting in and out of Kingwood sometimes can be a pain. The next thing I want to talk about is it's kind of so-so is the nightlife. So again, Kingwood is a suburb. It's kind of tucked off a little bit. Historically, you know, the homes here are really, really big homes, so very family-oriented area. And the demographics are changing right now, actually. Just over the last couple of years, we've actually been seeing a big influx of younger families moving here, which this isn't part of the con thing. We're seeing a lot more younger families move in, and older established people whose kids are grown, who don't need these big homes anymore, are downsizing. So the con I was going to mention about nightlife is there's not that much like cool or fun stuff to do in Kingwood, which could be a pro, could be a con, depending on your personality, right? So for us, my wife and I enjoy going out on date nights. We have our cool little spots that we hit here and there, but we're always like, man, you know, I wish there was something else, or I wish there was a restaurant that looked like this, or a bar that looked like this, or, you know, there's cool spots. There's restaurants, there's bars, there's a place called 3Bs we go to a lot. You know, there's a little dive bar in the front of Kingwood called Molly's, which, you know, we do, I'll say it, we love little dive bar spots. So that's actually one of our favorite places to go. We'll grab dinner, then we'll go hit Molly's for a couple hours, have some drinks. You know, just, there could be better things, but there still is enough to do whenever we want to go do it. You know, there's Sharky's, which is another restaurant that's right on the lake. More upscale place is Chimichurri's. That's kind of more date night, you know, fancy date night spot, if you will. Right next to that, another place called Rafa's. I mean, there's a ton of stuff. It could be cooler. It could be more fun, but that's kind of the vibe of Kingwood. It's very family oriented. And that really is what it's all about. So a lot of stuff focuses on the kids. We do have restaurants, and as I said, as the influx of younger families start to move here, we're starting to see some cooler stuff pop up. So we've had some breweries pop up recently. There's 3 in Kingwood now. So we have Back Pew Brewery, which is super cool. It's an old church that they converted into a brewery. We have Deca Beer Company. They just opened up not too long ago. And Megaton Brewery, which is really cool. It's like a big warehouse type place that they converted into a brewery. That one's probably one of our favorite spots to go, just to, you know, hang out, grab a beer. They got an arcade area with like all the old school arcade games. So it's super cool. Kids actually love hanging out there too. So, you know, like I said, could be some more stuff to do, but overall still great places, great stuff to do here. So one of the last things I want to touch on, which is kind of a touchy subject depending on who you ask. I spent the last literally 2 hours before doing this video researching the facts on flooding in Kingwood. So, you know, everyone talks about Hurricane Harvey. We had Tropical Storm Imelda. Before that, there wasn't really too much that happened. All the way back into like 1994, there was a big flood. So I was trying to, you know, reason and get everything figured out as to why before I did this. So I wasn't just giving you my opinion. I actually want to give you facts. So one of the things people always say is, oh, Kingwood floods, Kingwood floods. That is true. It would be inaccurate to say that it doesn't flood, but it's also accurate to say that anywhere in Houston, anywhere along the Gulf Coast through Texas, Louisiana, doesn't matter what city you live in, it's an accurate statement to say that it's highly likely that you're going to flood at some point if the storm is big enough. So what I've realized since being here since 2018 is, you know, the storm is going to hit wherever it hits. Hits some places worse than it does others. The time I've been here, I've been through storms where Kingwood didn't flood, but other cities did flood, down on the south side, on the east side. So that was one thing I started to try to make reason, because everyone would always tell me, oh, Kingwood floods so much. And I've been here for 4 years now thinking, okay, like, you know, it doesn't seem to flood any more than any other place does. It just depends on where the storm hits the hardest, right? So I started researching into it. But I came to realize, and I had heard this from a lot of my neighbors, and I was asking friends about it too, to speak to Hurricane Harvey specifically. Now, the fact of the matter is, and again, this isn't my opinion, you can look this up, Kingwood actually made it through the hurricane, the rain. It made it through that without any issues. And then the flooding happened when they released the floodgates up in Lake Conroe. So if you pull up a map, Lake Conroe is north, up by the Woodlands kind of. That runs down through the San Jacinto River into Lake Houston, which is right where Kingwood is. So come to find out, what actually happened was the hurricane came through, Kingwood made it through, no problems, and then they released the floodgates up there in Lake Conroe, and that's what made the Lake Houston and San Jacinto River start to overflow, and they kept releasing it, and that is what flooded Kingwood. So again, that is to say, not to say that Kingwood can't flood because of the rain, but I think the reason why people like to say, oh, Kingwood floods so much is because of the way that happened. It sticks out in everyone's mind because it wasn't a normal thing. It was kind of a one-off, like, oh man, that's crazy type thing. So I think when people hear Kingwood, they automatically think of that flood because it was a weird thing that happened. And that's also, to speak to the truthfulness about that, there still are people to this day who are in lawsuits with insurance companies because their insurance company wouldn't cover their home flooding. They wouldn't pay for it because they said it wasn't the hurricane that flooded their home. It wasn't the natural disaster. That was a man-made flood because they released those floodgates. So again, that tells you right there that, okay, there was something else that happened. That's a big thing that's going on right now. A lot of the homes that flooded, a lot of homeowners had that issue. Actually, some people that I knew here had family where that happened to. And speaking to, just to go back to what I said before, when you're talking about a hurricane like Harvey, I think that was a 500-year hurricane. So, they say that's supposedly never going to happen again. I don't know. It can. Who knows? Nobody really knows. But talking to people, like I said, I was in the oil industry. I worked down in Baytown, which is on the southeast side. I mean, I knew people that flooded that lived down there. There were people that lived in like Pearland, Sugarland. There were areas over there that flooded. Katy, there were areas that flooded. So, once you actually start talking to people and figuring out what was going on and what happened, it is kind of a unrealistic statement to say that Kingwood floods more than anywhere else, because the fact is, like I said, it just depends on where that storm is hitting. So keep that in mind. Again, there are places in Kingwood, like the subdivision that we live in, the specific area we live in, isn't even in a floodplain, and it didn't flood during Harvey. There's a lot of Kingwood that did not flood during Harvey. Again, I think it just kind of gets dramatized, or I don't even know if that's a word, but people get, people exaggerate things. And I think the way it happened, where it happened, because obviously a lot of those homes on the lake are multi-million-dollar homes. So, and a lot of those flooded. So just the way it happened kind of sticks out in people's mind. So keep that in mind, and all that to say that there are remedies in place now to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore. So one of the big stinks going on right now between Kingwood and Conroe, there's like this big battle because before the storms now, what's happening is they're actually lowering the levels in Lake Conroe. So a lot of those homeowners are mad because their docks, they have these beautiful homes on the lake. When they lower the level of that lake to anticipate a storm coming through so that it doesn't flood everything below, now their water level is 2 feet lower than it was. So their dock is 2 feet higher. So they're upset about that. Then you got people in Kingwood saying, well, last time you guys flooded us because you started flooding and you let everything go and then flooded us. So, there's this battle going on between there. But the remedy right now is they are lowering the levels in the lakes. They're also dredging Lake Houston continuously to actually make it deeper so it can hold more water. So that is the remedy. Again, we've been here for 4 years. We haven't experienced any flooding in our area. I actually don't even know anyone who has flooded. I know during Imelda, there were some sections of Kingwood that flooded. That was also some crazy thing because there was a builder who took out some like marshland and was starting to build on, and they actually covered one of the main drains for that area. So there was no drainage in that area. So when Imelda came through, it flooded a lot of the area that was around there because of that. So since then, that land's been given back to the city. That drainage has all been remedied, so that's not an issue anymore. So again, all that to say, it is accurate to say that Kingwood floods. It is also accurate to say that anywhere you live in Houston or along the Gulf Coast, there's a good possibility that it will flood if the storm or hurricane or whatever it is hits that specific area hard enough. So just keep that in mind. If you're thinking about Kingwood or anywhere else, it's always smart to look at the floodplains and see if that specific area, if it's important to you, see if that specific area is in a floodplain or not. So we'll go ahead and close this out. Again, just a recap of the pros and cons. Kingwood is a beautiful place. Very great location here in Houston, close to the airport, not far from downtown, the Woodlands. Golf courses are beautiful. Plenty to do to here in Kingwood. You know, everything's within driving distance. You got your stores, your schools, your shopping, everything you need right here. You got the swim teams in every little subdivision, which are awesome. You got great schools here in Kingwood. Just an overall beautiful place. Beautiful homes. A lot of the homes in the area, you're looking at like 4 or 5 bedrooms, you know, over 3,000 square feet on like quarter-acre lots. Big, beautiful, stately homes. That's awesome. You know, some of the cons, Kingwood Drive does get backed up. There is traffic every now and then because there's not that many ways in and out of Kingwood. There are things in place to remedy that. So hopefully within the next few years, that'll be taken care of. You know, the nightlife isn't really that great yet. You know, speaking from someone that's from Southern California where there's always tons of stuff to do and everything was open super late, you know, so as I said, the demographics are kind of changing right now. We're seeing more younger families, you know, move in here. And so that's actually starting to slowly change. And we've been seeing that over the last few years. Again, then go into the flooding. It is an accurate statement to say that Kingwood floods. It would be inaccurate to say that nowhere else floods. So again, keep that in mind. Check the floodplains wherever you're going to move to, whether that be Kingwood or any other places. Specifically speaking of Kingwood, we looked into it, so I do have the knowledge of the floodplains here. So if that's something that is important to you, go ahead and reach out, ask me. We can pull up maps. I can show you everything. Other than that, guys, you know, just a great place. Hopefully I answered some of the questions you might have had. If not, go ahead and put them in the comments below. I'll answer your questions there, or reach out. You know, you can email, text, call, set up a Zoom call. I personally like Zoom calls because I actually get to see people, and to me that's a lot more fun actually speaking, you know, face to face, if you will. But again, I talk to people daily. I love to do it. I love to help out. That's really what I'm here for. So again, guys, you know, I appreciate it. If I gave you any value, you know, subscribe, like, hit that bell. That's going to make sure you're the first to know about everything that's going on here in Houston from me. My name is Rene. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you.